So, kind of really big thing as far as Eyeshine goes, and just really, really great music. I know you guys did the cover for Power Rangers, super awesome, really big YouTube thing. Is there any kind of anime, past, present, or even future, that you wouldn't mind doing, like an intro or exit kind of song with your style?
That's something that we've talked about. Would be kind of cool, and there's been a couple things that have potential. It was like we were really close to getting, but that didn't end up getting. But that's certainly something that's been in our minds. We don't write anything specifically for. We don't write thinking, hey, this would be a great opener, or we don't write saying, let's write an opener. We write, and then whatever it is, if it works, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But there was an opportunity that we unfortunately did not get. But that's certainly on our radar. And do I need to choose an anime? I don't know which anime it would. I think we'd probably be. I think we'd be open to anything, really, any kind of opening. Our style of music is fairly flexible. It's rock, modern rock, but we tend to play all across the spectrum. So, I think we can adapt to anything, really.
What can you tell me about the order?
What can I tell you about the order? Not much, because at this point all I've done is I worked on the trailers. We basically shot about 5% of the film, if that, somewhere around there, and then I edited the trailers, and they reached the goal, but now we're just waiting to see if there's additional financing to help us to be able to do the film, or to continue. I'm not really privy to all that information at this point. I'm just kind of along the ride with everybody else, just waiting to find out.
What would you say has been the most challenging character that you played, or the one that helped you grow most in your craft?
I take away a little something from each character, but I feel like they've all collectively helped me grow as an actor, and like voicing Nate in Yokai Watch, and then going and voicing Orga, in Iron-Blooded Orphans. Very different voices for me, and completely opposite spectrums of my own range. But it really just, I don't know if there's one role,
I guess since we're kind of going back and forth, what, for both music for all of you at Eyeshine as well as you an actor, what has been your inspirations?
For music specifically?
For music specifically, I think it's great that you do it.
I don't know specifically. I grew up liking music in general, but I was like one of those kids that liked like the Sex Pistols and the Clash, so probably around those type of bands.
Inspiration, right? Mm-hmm. So love grunge music. So Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl's my hero.
Oh yeah.
He signed my shoulder and tattooed it. Yeah.
I grew up playing in a lot of metal bands, a lot of like fast, crazy grindcore stuff, and then, but I always listened to like pop punk, and joining this band was cool to go back to my roots and learn a little more groove and all that.
I don't know if there's not really one band specifically. I think it's just there's been a lot of different things. If I look at anything online,
It's everywhere.
it's all over the place. It really is. I mean, I got Lionel Richie.
Yeah, I know he sings a lot. Like recently, I don't know why.
It really is like all sorts of music. Really anything that moves me emotionally. Like Lionel Richie is more something my mom listened to all the time. But I know all of the songs. So yeah, just kind of everywhere really. For the band and us, for me, it's Yeah, I mean, I went through a depression, you know, after Power Rangers, and I had a hard time getting a job at that point. You know, at that time, at least, it was really hard for me to find a job because I don't exactly look like, if I'm going out and the role says Asian guy, you know. I kind of am like, well, maybe he's Asian. You know what I mean? It's like, what is he? But if you have some guy who walks in and is like this, you're gonna
100%.
you're gonna are you gonna cast which Asian guy? You know, you're gonna cast the guy that looks more Asian. You know, and the same thing with any role that I was going that was like a Caucasian role or whatever. Obviously, I just wasn't getting it. So, anyways, I went through a depression because after Power Rangers, I just couldn't find a job. This was before voiceover. And I had this guitar in my closet and that I bought that I was going to learn how to play at some point, and that was the time when I had nothing to do, and so I taught myself to play and I started writing songs, and that kind of brought me out of my funk. And then I just kind of, it wasn't like this is what I'm going to do, but I just felt like it might be kind of cool to start a band. You know, if this could bring me out of it, maybe I can write songs that can, you know, motivate other people, or, you know, it wasn't like this is what we're gonna do. It was just like I just felt that way, you know. So I started writing songs and formed a band with the intention of having a positive message throughout and to be able to motivate people, and that's really kind of where it all started for me as far as the band.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What got you started into anime and voice acting?
Well, basically, I did an action film called Extreme Heist. It's called Wicked Game in other places, and it was done by the stunt team from Power Rangers, so Alpha Stunts, and so they were all Japanese. The camera was Japanese. The sound guys weren't. And so as we were shooting the film at the end, when they edited everything, the audio was just screwed up, and so I had to go in and dub myself. And as I was dubbing myself, the producer walked in, heard my voice, thought I had a decent hero voice, and asked me to come and audition for this animation. And I was like, sure, I needed the job at the time, and it was for Trigun, and that was the first role for me to audition for, and, you know, I booked that role, and that kind of opened the doors for me, and, you know, I've just been plugging away since. Yes?
Almost every person I've ever asked what was the first anime you watched, you were voiced in. You've been in pretty much every iconic anime for about the last 20 years. How do you choose your projects? And do you kind of feel a little bit of a responsibility towards like introducing people to their first anime?
Earlier on, I didn't really think about that as much. I was just excited to get a job, you know? And it was more like, it's really cool to get something like this, you know, and I was more overwhelmed by, this is awesome. This is like still acting, but I can be this completely different person. I don't have to look like this, you know. So it was kind of cool for me in the beginning. And I didn't realize how big all that stuff was. You know, I didn't realize that Trigun was a big thing until I started going to conventions and seeing people dressed up, and then people telling me the impact that it had on them. So it wasn't until a little later that I started to take things a bit more seriously as far as the roles, and then you know, looking them up and doing my own research on the characters and the story, so that I can kind of bring something possibly new to it, even though it's already done. You know, hopefully that whatever take I do on a character, it'll be slightly new or something fresh at least. But yeah, it is a big responsibility, you know, and it's usually when I come to when I come to a con when I find out whether I've done a good job or not.
Like I said, every person I've asked, it's almost always one of yours, where my first one was Sailor Moon, and then I have a friend whose daughter's first one was Kill Kill.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, apparently we're jumping generations.
That's crazy, yeah.
So my name is Keenan Cole. I'm with Metrosphere at Mime Media. What's been the high points of your voice acting career, or just a moment that really stood out for you?
That's a good question. I don't know if I could think of one moment, really. At least I can't think of one right now, but a lot of times it's meeting people, and I've had this happen often, where they say that a character that I play in a game or anime or animation had spoke to them in a certain way when they were in a terrible position, or they lost their family member or something, and this really kind of brought them out of that. When I hear those, not that I ever really want to hear those stories, but when I do hear those stories, it makes me feel like I'm actually doing something that is worth something to someone, because you kind of, if you think about it, it's like it's voice acting, you don't think it's really that important, until you meet somebody that it's really had a huge impact on. So it's anytime I meet somebody that has a story to share about like that.
Is there, both as a voice actor and a band, is there something more ambitious yet as far as work that you could break into now that you've conquered what you've conquered, that you're maybe shooting for, you've thought about but you haven't done yet? What does that look like, your future ambitions and goals?
Like a whole new thing?
Maybe, or just, answer it however you take it, you know what I mean? What's next on the horizon?
What's next?
For growth.
For growth. Well, we do have another album that we're planning to release by the end of the year. It keeps getting pushed back, though, because of my personal schedule. But the songs have been recorded. I just haven't mixed them, and I haven't finished all the vocals. Really, that's just, that's it. Plugging away and playing and doing more shows. I still want to do, obviously, more voiceover, and I am still doing more voiceover. Nothing I can really talk about at the moment. Most things you probably already know. The other stuff's all NDA, so we can't talk about. And a couple other projects on the horizon, some indie projects and some cool things that are going on. Again, it's dumb. I can't really talk about anything,
No, I get it.
But yeah, I'm basically doing the same stuff that I've been doing for the, past few years, which is great. I'm very fortunate to be able to continue to be doing this.
Do you prefer voice acting over on stage or in front of camera?
It depends on the role, really. There's a lot more of me involved, obviously, on camera. I have to commit my whole look and everything. I kind of have to sort of become that character a lot more than I do voice-wise. So I do enjoy that a little more. But there are times when it's nice to just, roll in PJs and just start talking. But yeah, it kind of depends on the role. But I do prefer, I guess, on camera.
Have you ever ended up becoming a fan of something that you were working on?
Something that I've worked on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Can you give an example?
Well, like Trigun, even Bleach, or Code Geass. There's been a few like those ones, that I wasn't familiar with beforehand, and working on like Code Geass, and then, I'm experiencing the show as Lelouch when I'm working on it, and then I get to, the end of the first season, I'm like, that was nuts. It's like, oh, what's gonna happen next, and it's kind of exciting. And sometimes it's cool because even directors won't tell you what's gonna happen, so they kind of let you really kind of become that moment, and so it's kind of cool. But there's been a few, definitely. There's been a few that I haven't liked, for various reasons. I'll tell you one. I don't know the name of it. It was a game, and it's nothing bad about the game or anything, but I didn't know what else going in for. They said, "Oh, you're coming. We want you to come in and do a voice video game." I was like, "Sure, whatever." So I went in, and I get there, and it's the script, and I was playing it was like a goblin, and it had a number, like Goblin 13, So it was just a miscellaneous goblin, and I was looking through the sides, and it was all just vowels, and I'm like, "What is this?" And I was like, "What is all? It's just vowels." And they're like, "Well, it's goblin noises." Yeah, no, exactly. I was like, I don't know any goblins. I don't know what goblins sound like. They're like, yeah, goblin noises. And I was like, ah. And I used to have this guinea pig when I was little, and I used to talk to him. And so I was like, And they're like, yeah, okay. And so I was like, so I did that for, 4 hours. And it's like, you're on fire. It's falling off a cliff. You're being electrocuted. And so it was that for 4 hours. And then afterwards, I couldn't talk, because I just burned myself out and screaming this weird pig voice. And I lost a job the next day. That was for a series. I was supposed to do a young voice, but I couldn't do it, so they had to recast. And then, and so that's my least favorite role, to go off on a slant.
Sorry. Do each of you have a passion project that you've just never gotten to work on that you really wanted to?
Do me last.
I can't think of any, no. I mean,
Passion.
I think just gigging in general is my passion, and the more I
Speaking.
play,
Oh, so sorry.
the more I play, the more I'm stoked. So
Speaking English.
His passion project is speaking clear English.
Takes 9 years. Like.
Hey, not even all Americans know how to speak English properly.
That's true. It depends on where you live, I guess.
It's my project.
I got a few projects, that I've written, and I keep trying to get off the ground, but then you find, investors, and then they come and go, and they're a bit flaky here or there. And so it's always a struggle to get things to really happen. But, I've been close on a couple of things, and we'll see, hopefully, in the future.
I mean, there's like a lot of things that I want to be able to do. Like I tried to start a garden once, died. Tried to go dance school once, terrible. But I'm glad the bass playing thing kind of worked out for me. I'll stick with that for now.
So for going from acting on screen to voice acting for an anime series already complete, to nowadays where an anime might even be pretty much, you might be recording at the same time it's airing in Japan. Have you had to evolve yourself and face new challenges through it?
I think more now you just have to be ready. You show up, and before you could do it, and not that you would mess up, but if you did mess up something, then it was like, it wasn't that big a deal. You can come in the next day, you can do a pickup on it or whatever, and fix something. But now it's like, you got to get it right, because they're going to stream it, in a couple days, and then after that, then they might be able to, have you come in and clean it up before the DVD or whatever. So there's a little more pressure on that to get things right the first time around. The other thing is, there's so many projects that you're starting to get new directors in there. Sometimes that director speaks a different language, and so making that connection so that you can do exactly what they want as well as what you want in the character is sometimes a little complicated. But did I answer that question right? Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, good.
Do you have any other hobbies outside of your band and anime and stuff like that?
Martial arts, yeah. I train. Currently, I do Filipino martial arts, Eskrima, Hapkido, and Jiu-Jitsu, and kickboxing.
Pokemon.
And Pokemon Go.
A lot of Pokemon.
I do have a lot of Pokemon. I gotta catch them all. Team Instinct.
Are you playing now?
Hey, I'm not playing right now.
Sorry, guys.
No, the wife was calling me, and I was just making sure that my kids are okay. And so I'm like, why is she calling? Usually she just texts me. But,
what do you guys hope people get out of your music? Or
I'm sorry?
What do you hope people get out of your music? Or what's the feeling you hope you can convey with it?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, for me, there are a lot of different things, but I want to make a connection with people, For instance, when we're up there and if we're playing a set, if I see somebody out there that's singing the lyrics that I wrote, then I instantly have a connection with that person. There's we have something now, and it just feels great to, anything, if somebody can hum a guitar lick or a bass line or anything like that, it just feels like, I don't know, you contributed something, you know, and it just feels great. Like wow, you know, because I'm insecure, you know, and it's nice to have like that connection with other people, you know, and then it's just finding those little connections here and there, and sometimes if it's them singing a song, and again, it's like I've had the song Alone or whatever. Some people, a lot of times actually, with that song, people have lost family members and then said that song helped them out of that, which is really sad to hear, but also really great to be able to kind of be there for them through the music, you know. And so really that's the reward for me, is to just kind of have music there, maybe to motivate people or to put them in a positive mood, or just enjoying it, you know, like we were playing last night and goofing off and messing up, but we have fun, you know, and I think most people can see that too, and they're having fun, and that's really, really important for us, I guess. You guys have anything to add to that?
I like that a lot of the songs have really good messages. It's all very uplifting for the most part, and therefore really easily relatable. So I hope they get that out of it, like we do.
The next one's all going to be bad.
Next album, Parenthood.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Well, to be any kind of performer, it takes a certain amount of ego and confidence. How do you guys kind of psych yourself up to perform, even if it's just voice acting or actually playing?
Yeah, that's funny.
Well, you said you're insecure, but like I said, it takes a
No,
lot
you're
of
right.
ego to be a performer.
I don't know what it is, but ever since, I've always been a shy person when I was, you know, especially when I was younger, and getting in front of people is scary, you know, and now, I still have those feelings, but when I first did it and I kept going or whatever, there's something about it, like it's like a fear that I was conquering, you know, and that's what it feels like every single time. It's like a challenge to go out there, and it's a challenge I accept, you know, and it's like, you can go out there, you can make a complete fool of yourself, or not, you know, and it's like that risk, you know, there's just something about it, for me at least, that it's like, it's a, you know, I don't know what it is. But yeah, I still have that, but I don't know what I do to psych myself up. I just go like, well, we said we're going to play a show, so we got to play a show.
Can't really back out now.
Yeah, it's too late, too late to say no. That's right. I don't know. What do you guys? You do to psych. You just get nervous backstage.
Yeah. She did it last night.
I'm always like, I don't know what to do. I don't know. And then he's like, calm down, just have fun. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
You just walk around and go, don't mess up. Don't mess up.
Yeah.
It's like, remember the Brit now. You'd think after like a couple hundred shows, you wouldn't get nervous anymore, but nope.
What? I don't get nervous anymore.
I do.
You should.
Maybe you play better.
Maybe you play better.
Don't say that.
Play better if you were nervous.
Mine's like, my nervousness concentrates. Yeah, I got this.
Just like it. It's like stand on the stage.
Yeah.
So speaking of roles that you've done in the past and revisiting them, specifically like the Trigun movie and when Durara Season 2 came out, how was it like revisiting old characters you voiced?
It was cool. It was really neat to see Trigun in movie form, and the animation at that point is just so much better, you know? And so it was really cool to see that. It kind of made me wish that they would go through the original series and reanimate it or something, you know? Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to go back. I had to watch the episodes to remember where I was voice-wise, you know? It was still something that was fairly, like, it hasn't been that long at least, and so...
Only like a couple years as opposed to like 15.
Exactly, so it's easier to kind of like slide right back into Izaya. But yeah, it's always great to go in and like that for that specifically. But even Power Rangers, I went back for, you know, a few episodes, like a 15th anniversary, you know. It was kind of cool to go and be that character after 13 years. And then be the leader of the Retro Rangers.
They were called the Retro Rangers?
Yeah, well, we called ourselves the Retro Rangers. The cast was, the crew was calling us Retro, and it just became a thing.
That's funny.
Yeah.
How was Eyeshine received at Power Morphin?
I think good. Well, right?
Yeah, that was-
everybody seemed to have a
that
good
was awesome.
time. We had there's a lot of people there, and you know, I mean, usually we do autographs and stuff afterwards, and we were there for a couple hours
Yeah.
for sure at that one. And but the funny thing is, like at that one, it was well, they had forgot like 3 days before. They're like, oh, we forgot that you guys were playing.
It happens sometimes.
It sometimes happens.
Yeah.
Stuff always happens. It's just the degree of how bad the stuff was. And so he's like, can you guys bring additional PA and all that? And so we had to like scramble and find some stuff, and we were able to do it. But that's just kind of, that's part of it, I guess, part of being in a band. But yeah, so it was kind of throwing everything together and then hoping it was going to work, and then, you know, everybody enjoyed it. Yeah. So.
It's band's curse. There's always something.
Yeah, I do wonder if other bands have the experiences that we have. I mean,
Yeah,
you
I've
hear
I've had
all
problems
the
like that.
Yeah,
Before, too.
it's just,
Being
it's
a
like
drummer,
Spinal
it's
Tap.
like, oh,
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Like Spinal Tap.
Strings break.
Yeah.
Drum
It's
heads
just like
break.
Yeah.
3 songs in, my bass drum breaks. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that sucks.
That's the worst.
No,
Can't do
that stuff-
anything.
Yeah, I remember we played our first show, like we had like 6 songs, and our first show was at this place called the Cobalt, and I didn't know anything about like what kind of style of music was there, but when we got there, it was all like death metal, like you know, and we get in there, we're like, you know, a happy band, you know, and so we go in there, and everybody just hates us because we weren't hard enough, and so a few months go by, and I start writing a little harder, edgier rock stuff. And so we're like, we're going to go back and play again. Redeem ourselves. Let's do it. And so we go back, and we're all psyched up. And we got like 8 songs, and they're edgier. We're going to fit in this time. And we were just a 3-piece at the time. And I turned around, and I looked at my bass player. I was like, you ready? He's like, yeah. And I was like, I looked at my drummer. You ready? I was like, yeah, let's do it. I was like, all right. And then I turned around, and I strummed down, and my A string went bing.
First song.
Yeah, first song.
Worst.
And then I had no other guitar. I didn't have any other strings, and so I was like,
Does anyone have a guitar I can borrow?
Yeah. We just played.
Yeah.
It was terrible. We did not redeem ourselves.
Yeah, the singer of my band took my floor tom and tried to make that my kick drum, and I was like, this is not going to work. What are you doing?
Jesus. That's funny. Yeah. But. You guys have any others? Yeah?
Well, you mentioned that you, after starting the voice characters, you look into them a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But have you become more selective on the characters that you've chosen before even getting, before auditioning for them?
Well, you know, a lot of times I'll know when I'm auditioning,
Mm-hmm.
or when I get those audition sides, whether or not I want to audition for the role. And so that's usually, like, I'll see something and then I'll just pass on it if it's not something that I want to audition for, or a voice maybe that'd be too hard for me to carry throughout, you know. So there's certainly been times where I pass up a role before that, you know, just not even audition. But most times, you know, if a director or a producer has asked me to play the role, I go in and I do that, you know. But then there have been times where I've booked roles and then going into the first episode or even up to the second episode, and I'm feeling like everything that I'm delivering is being adjusted by the director or producers. Usually those first few episodes of any kind of show, they'll have like everybody there. And if it's an anime, they've got the production company or the producers from Japan there too, and they're all like, they've all got feedback. And there's a lot of pressure as an actor. So there's been a couple times where I would be delivering something that felt right to me, and then they were changing it drastically, you know, and it was like, it's not what I was. And so there have been a couple times where I've stopped and said, I don't think that this role is for me, you know, because I don't want to force something, you know, because then otherwise it's going to sound fake. It's not going to sound real. I want to be able to do something that feels right instantly, you know. So yeah, there've been a couple like that.
What
advice would you give to a band either trying to break into the industry or a voice actor trying to break into their industry?
Well, let's see. Let me do the voice actor one real quick, and then we could probably each answer something for a band. Voiceover, I think it's voice acting, so you have to have, first off, a clear, decent voice, I guess. Something where people can understand you, so you can't really have a lisp or something. If you do, you've got to work that out. And then acting. You have to have some kind of acting experience or the ability to act. Taking direction is very important. Sometimes as an actor, you'll want to do this, but then a director will have some completely different thing. And so you need to be able to take that direction and still kind of make that natural. And then from there, I would put together a demo. Maybe find an agent, try to get an agent, because you need to get auditions, That's really where you obviously start booking stuff. And once you book something, then that kind of opens the door for you. As long as you nail that job or you do a decent job, that director might bring you back in, So, something like that. But to put like a demo together, find an agent, or start submitting to studios. What would you say for a band trying to start?
Trying to start. Practice is good. Learning to play is needed. Not for like EDM stuff necessarily nowadays, but.
Look at me.
he loves that stuff. That's why I was poking fun, but yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say like we're great advice givers on that. We're doing good though, right?
Yeah.
We're doing all right.
Yeah.
How many albums are we? We got like 15
million,
albums or
yeah.
something. But what else? I don't know. There's so many things. I would. There's so many things, If you're a guitarist, make sure you have your guitar.
Oh no, me?
Yeah, I did it.
Where's my guitar?
Always. I don't want to sound like I'm being negative or whatever, but always assume the worst showing up to a gig. Try obviously do your best, but assume that you're going to show up and they're not going to have what you need to be able to play. So kind of over-prepare, A lot of times we'll show up, especially if we do a convention, we don't really know because they'll rent our backline, which is our amps or drums and stuff like that. And there have been, this here was great, perfect, but a lot of times we'll get there and the amp is like this. It's like that free amp that you get when you buy your first new guitar, and it's the one you get for free. It's like a 5-watt amp, and then we've got to use this amp to play in front of 1,000 people or whatever it is. It's like how's this gonna work? And so I guess assume the worst, because that's happened quite a few times, and just be prepared to have the right pedals to be able to amplify that thing or to be able to go through the board. What do you?
I'd say play as many shows as possible. Get better playing shows, and getting as many fans in your town as possible. Because, everyone, it'll just help in the long run of getting a fan base and people coming to your shows. A lot of when you start is pay to play or you have to give tickets out, and having fans is a huge plus in that situation instead of paying out of pocket.
Yeah, and family and friends will be there for a while.
They'll stop coming.
But after a couple months, they're like, no more.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, we got about just a few minutes left, so if anybody has any last short questions to get out.
Yeah. So you guys mentioned you like Sex Pistols, grunge, pop punk, and Lionel Richie. What album what album are you currently enjoying right now as a musician? Would you say that's like constantly on repeat?
I've been Album Leaf. You sent me that thing. And
Yeah, they're pretty
I've
good.
been listening to Album Leaf.
Leaf.
They're
Dinosaur.
not totally instrumental, but a lot of it is. Actually, I like them better instrumentally. Yeah.
What album?
Yeah.
One that I can listen to for the rest of my life and never get bored of is probably the Buzzcocks Singles Going Steady.
Oh, nice.
It's like good from like the beginning to the end. It's just so amazing.
I don't know. Justin Bieber.
He actually, I borrowed his phone earlier. I borrowed his phone. I'm like, oh, can I look something up? And I was like, sure. I was like, he was Googling Justin Bieber. I was like, what is that? He's like, he was wearing.
As a believer.
Apparently.
Polo is a believer.
I'm listening to the new 21 Pilots CD
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
and
that's
the
good.
new Blink CD. Those are like on repeat with me right now.
Yeah, the new Blink CD is good.
That's a good question.
Any others? That's it?
That's it. Maybe you guys can introduce yourselves since we only
Yeah,
know,
sure.
had you introduce
Yeah.
Johnny, so you can meet the rest of the band too.
I'm Ginny, spelled Ginny, Eck. I play bass.
Polo, like Marco Polo.
Mm-hmm.
So Yazaki, Yazaki. I'm a little guitarist from Japan.
But I met him in
Original.
Idaho.
Oh, yeah.
Justin Bieber times.
He was there. He was next to me.
I'm Riley Brinzer, the newest member. I play drums.
Yeah, see, Polo's got this I'm not Johnny Yong Bosch.
Yeah, look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason is because, at the table, whenever we're doing autographs, people always go up to him and think that he's me.
Today, and like someone told me like, oh, I recognize the voice. What? My accent?
All of us were like.
Even Sunny told me like, oh, you guys have the same face. I was like, Sunny, what?
I think what most people, this is what I think. I think people are assuming that he's the Japanese voice actor.
Oh, yeah.
So you voice over for him in Japan.
Exactly, right, yeah.
Weird. Sure, it doesn't work.
You need that on your face.
Yeah, right?
There's a giant banner of your face.
I know.
Just like right from
and all those 8x10s
his
of my
pictures
face.
everywhere.
Although I have to tell you that photo is very hello, ladies. Like you're such a happy person, and that's just like such a almost
Now I'm
serious
trying-
look on your face.
Now I'm thinking of Johnny Yong Bosch doing the Old Spice commercial.
Well, yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. And,
Thank you so much.
Does anybody have any more questions? Or
Fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, we'd love to see and hear the interviews and stuff that you guys.